In this episode, we talk about the Gujarat High Court acquitting those who were convicted in the murder of the RTI activist Amit Jethwa. We also talk about the latest controversy involving Congress leader Sam Pitroda. But first, we talk about the biggest concerns for voters in Bihar and why many of them will be voting for BJP despite concerns like price rise and unemployment. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. During the election season, among the issues that have generated the most buzz are those related to reservation, inheritance tax, and wealth distribution. And while these concerns have dominated news headlines and sparked television debates, voters in Bihar at least do not seem too concerned about them. Indian Express's Deeptiman Tiwary has been travelling across the state for the paper, and in this segment he joins my colleague Shashank Bhargava to discuss what has been on the minds of those who live in Bihar.
So Deeptiman, begin by telling us, when you spoke to voters in Bihar, what were some of the biggest issues that they talked about?
The biggest issues in Bihar, top of the mind issues that we call, are price rise and unemployment. Almost every voter you talk to and you ask them what are the issues they are facing without asking leading questions, they straight away come with महंगाई बहुत ज़्यादा है, महंगाई से परेशान हैं. And when you talk to younger voters, who may be in their 20s or 30s, so they talk about there not being any employment opportunities in Bihar and how everybody has to migrate out of the state to make a living. And we all know that, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and, from Gujarat to, say, Arunachal Pradesh, almost every state has Bihari laborers doing the work. So that is one of the pet peeves among the people. And of course, inflation is one thing that touches all sections of society.
Okay, so then this is something that people across sections talk about.
Undoubtedly, this is across caste lines. So upper caste also face महंगाई and बेरोजगारी. Dalits also talk about महंगाई. Unemployment, maybe, you talk to older voters who are over 60, probably they will not talk about unemployment because it's not something that is a major concern for them. But younger voters will talk about unemployment across caste lines. And inflation is something that everybody will talk about because it touches everybody.
And do they talk about things like reservations and concerns over constitutional amendments that we've been hearing so much about?
So definitely not a top of the mind issue on the people. People talk about it only when you ask them specifically about these issues. Many people don't even understand what these issues are. Even if you simplify to them, they don't understand what these issues are. Also, the slogans of save the constitution and save democracy is also not ringing a bell with most people. Unless somebody is highly educated, it does not ring a bell to them because they don't understand what constitution actually does for them or what democracy actually does for them or what will happen if constitution and democracy is not there. So when that awareness is not there, obviously, these are issues that do not ring with them. In fact, most people believe that nobody can take away reservations and nobody can take their wives' Mangal Sutra. So this is something that people articulate very clearly.
Okay, and when we talk about unemployment and price rise, these are issues that we've seen voters talk about in other states as well. But in Bihar, did you find people blaming Nitish Kumar or the BJP government for it?
One thing which I found very stark in Bihar was that while this unemployment and inflation is touching every section of society, it is not exactly influencing voting patterns in a manner that it can swing votes. So, to an extent, it appears that while these are top issues on the minds of the voters, they are not exactly voting on these issues. It's not exactly making them angry. They're upset, but they're not angry. So, there are multiple reasons for it because they feel that while the government may be failing on this front, there are other things which it is doing and which it is doing better, it is doing well. And also for many voters, it appears that they feel that there is no other option. That is in some way, influencing voting preferences.
Okay, so then what are the kind of examples they cite when talking about the things that are working for them, the things they feel the government is doing right?
So depending upon who you're speaking to, you will get different answers for these two problems of unemployment and inflation. So in case you're talking to a Yadav or a Muslim or a section of Dalits who are known to vote for the RJD and the Congress, then they completely berate the government and they say that Modi ji ne to khatam kar diya desh ko, aate pe bhi GST laga diya hai. But the moment you go to a BJP voter who is traditionally known to be a BJP voter, for example, the upper caste, a section of Dalits such as Paswans, who generally vote for the BJP, then sections within the OBC who will vote for the BJP or will vote for Nitish Kumar, like such as Kurmis, Kushwahas. So they begin to justify with completely inane reasons. So some voters said that, Sir, mehengai to hai. But what can anyone do about inflation? There is so much of population. When population explosion happens, then inflation increases on its own. Then there were others who said, all this is because of Pakistanis and Bangladeshi infiltrators. Once Modi ji kicks them out, inflation will come down on its own.
Right, and this is exactly the narrative that we have heard BJP leaders talk about.
See, absolutely. So what has happened is that one could say, and it appears on the ground, that BJP has been extremely good at managing perception and at warding off anti-incumbency in a way that voters are sort of justifying their own preference. So what comes along with it is that the pluses that come with Modi. So they talk about देश का मान बढ़ गया है, विश्व ने हमको गुरु मान लिया है, देश तीसरे स्थान पर पहुंच गया है. So while the voter is unable to see any vikas, any development in his own life, okay, but he feels that the country is progressing. So the idea of nationalism and national pride, which has been consistently articulated both by Mr. Modi and his party, has actually captured public imagination. And so people feel that, okay, there may not be much happening in my life, but I think, the country is progressing. So they have a very good hold on the perception, political perception of Mr. Modi and his regime, which has been sort of managed in two ways. One is the television media, the mainstream media, and two is social media, because most voters say that हमने YouTube पे देखा है, हमने WhatsApp पे पढ़ा है. So the way probably the BJP IT cell has been managing perception has been better than the opposition, and that is why, despite certain problems, most people feel that the country is doing well, even if they are not doing well.
But Deeptiman, are there any concrete things that voters say the Modi government has done for them? And did Ram Temple come up in conversations at all?
So people are convinced that hadn't it been for Modi, Ram Temple would not have been built. And this is not just among upper caste, but also among several OBCs and even Dalits. Two is Modi's schemes. There are two schemes which are an absolute hit with the landless laborers and the very poor communities in Bihar. And these are free ration. Even though people complain that they do not get the entire ration or dealer 1 kilo खा जाता है, 4 kilo देता है, yet they feel that, the free ration is a great support at a time when, prices are high. So at least food is something that is being taken care of. So that is a great relief to the people. And second is the PM Awas Yojana. So from village to village, in several villages you go, there are several concrete houses which have come out in the past, say, 10 years. So people feel that, Narendra Modi is really concerned about the poor and he's building houses for them. So the beneficiaries obviously are voting. The non-beneficiaries are in the hope that, so many houses have been built, my turn will also come. So that way, these two schemes, and interestingly, it is also a commentary on the Congress. All these houses across Bihar, wherever I went, people call it Indira Awas Yojana. Now, Indira Awas Yojana was something that was started way back in the Congress time. And people feel that now they are getting Indira Awas, which is a reflection on how Congress probably failed to implement its own scheme.
And Deeptiman, the other thing we have seen under this government is this narrative of polarization and divisive rhetoric. Did people say anything about that?
Yes, people do talk about polarization. People do talk about division in the society. And this is also from BJP supporters as well. But then BJP supporters say that, yes, we agree that there is too much Hindu-Muslim happening in the country. But then even Congress refused to go to the Ram Temple inauguration. So Congress is no different. So it's a matter of between two communal parties, who do you want to choose? That's an argument that people make. Obviously, Muslims feel that despite all the schemes of Mr. Narendra Modi, which are very good and they are benefiting from those schemes, they feel that, this is one thing that they don't like about him. People say कि ये जो लड़वाने वाला काम कर रहे हैं मोदी जी, वो ठीक नहीं है. वो अगर छोड़ दें, तो he's a very good leader. So, yes, there is a sense among the people, even among BJP supporters, that there is Hindu-Muslim happening. But again, as I said, that they don't see Congress in a great light either. So this is not exactly influencing or swinging votes in any manner. And in fact, there is a sizable Hindutva vote, which probably likes the BJP for precisely this reason, that it is talking about Muslim appeasement and, it does not want to specifically cater to minorities and talks about Hindus. So it is something that appeals to people.
And Deeptiman, although many people are saying that there is no alternative, the RJD, for example, who has allied with the Congress, does have a sizable vote bank in the state. And you write that Yadavs, a section of Dalits and Muslims, are leaning towards them. So what kind of opinions did they share with you?
See, Yadavs are people who make a lot of noise, so they are very confident. They will, even if they feel that they are not winning or their numbers are less, they will always sound confident and say that we are winning. Everybody is voting. They will speak for all castes. And they will start saying that Brahmins are also voting for RJD. Muslims are voting for RJD. OBCs are also voting. This time, RJD is winning. So they are very vocal voters. Muslims are reticent because they come across as slightly afraid, so they do not easily speak their mind. But they are a vote bank which is voting very sincerely, as something that we have seen on the ground. On the other side, you will find upper caste, again, articulating for the entire Hindu community, saying that, everybody is voting for the BJP. Don't go on what others are saying. It is Modi ji jeet rahe hain, aayega to Modi, these kind of things they'll say. But so both sides, voters and supporters of, the two factions are, of course, very confident. Yes, when you talk to Dalits and when you talk to certain sections of OBCs, they are more nuanced because they talk about their own problems that they face.
Also, Deeptiman, there doesn't seem to be a big wave this time around like we saw in the last polls. So what do you think it will come down to?
There are many calculations in this. So there is the Modi magic. Modi remains extremely popular, not just among upper caste, but also among OBCs and Dalits. Modi's schemes are working on the ground and people sincerely believe that, the country is progressing and doing well. But at the same time, there is a sense of fatigue among the people with, 10 years of rule. And there is a sizable section of voters who feel that there should be a change. But one thing working in favor of Mr. Narendra Modi is that people do not see any alternative. People do not yet see, a large number of voters do not yet see Rahul Gandhi as an option. Conversely, what is working in favor of the opposition is that there is a sense of fatigue with Mr. Modi. There is no new narrative that Mr. Modi has come up with. So, national pride is a narrative that was there in the last election also. It has always been there. Okay. Hindutva is something that has always been there with Mr. Modi. So again, this is not a new narrative. So Mr. Modi is seeking votes largely on old narratives. But another thing which is working in favor of the opposition is the opposition vote bank appears to be very committed and sincere to voting. And on the other side, with the BJP having created this narrative that we are winning more than 400 seats, appears slightly complacent. Modi ji to jeet hi rahe hain. So what happens that in certain constituencies where the voter, BJP supporter, feels that this candidate is very bad and he must be taught a lesson. So he feels that, Modi is winning anyway. Let's defeat this guy. So these kind of calculations, how they sit on June 5 remains to be seen.
And next we talk about the murder case of RTI activist Amit Jethwa. On Monday, the Gujarat High Court acquitted former BJP MP Dinu Solanki and 6 others in the said murder case. The case dates back to 2010 when 2 men had shot Jethwa right outside the Gujarat High Court. When we spoke to Indian Express's Sohini Ghosh, she told us that the murder had sent shockwaves across the state.
So the incident had happened at a commercial complex, which is situated right outside the Gujarat High Court. And, given what a high court, a constitutional court stands for, and the brazenness of this happening in broad daylight had really shocked everyone.
She said that it was the local police that first began investigating the matter, but the case was later transferred to the CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation.
And the Central Bureau of Investigation had then filed a charge sheet implicating and terming a then BJP MP from Junagadh, Dinu Solanki, as the key accused and key conspirator in the case.
The trial had lasted nearly 9 years, and in the end, Solanki and the other 6 accused were sentenced to life imprisonment in July 2019. To understand why they have been acquitted now, we speak to Sohini in this segment. Sohini, can you begin by telling us what had led to Jethwa's murder and what had the CBI's investigation revealed about the motivations of MP Dinu Solanki and the other accused?
So as per the CBI, the main motive was basically the RTI activist Amit Jethwa. He had been affecting the business prospects and had also initiated a public interest litigation in Gujarat High Court against this BJP MP for violation of mining leases and mining conditions, because the MP, Dinu Solanki, his constituency is Junagadh, which also has a part of the Gir Somnath, the protected Gir forest. It falls in this constituency as well. And he had a lot of business. So he was mainly involved in mining and construction business. So a lot of his business interests were lying here in this area. And a lot of the mining activities were being undertaken in the neighboring area of Gir. And the allegation, as per Amit Jethwa, that he was using his political might and his clout to get environmental clearances for leases for mining spots which were clearly in violation of the law. So more or less the motive was attributed that Amit Jethwa was turning out to be a thorn in Dinu Solanki's path.
And can you talk a bit about Solanki and how he started his political career? Because we understand that he knew Amit Jethwa pretty early on.
So Dinu Solanki, he joined politics. He started off as a president of the Kodinar municipality. And in 1998, he was elected as an MLA from Kodinar. And interestingly, Amit Jethwa back then was practically an aide of Dinu Solanki. So he used to live at the MLA quarters of Dinu Solanki in Gandhinagar. But it was only around 2000 that the relationship between Dinu Solanki and Amit Jethwa started deteriorating, because Amit Jethwa started focusing a lot on environmental activism. And in 2007, Amit Jethwa had also contested against Dinu Solanki. Jethwa lost, but that again kind of irked Dinu Solanki. And Jethwa probably had inside information about the mining leases, etc. So he started handling a lot of the RTIs. So yeah, that is how the relationship progressed. And ultimately a public interest litigation was filed by Jethwa on the mining operations that is ongoing around the Gir forest, which is a protected area. A High Court order was passed in the same month, in July 2010, directing that Dinu Solanki be also added as a respondent to the public interest litigation by Jethwa. And they were joined as parties, and 10 days later, Amit Jethwa was shot dead.
And Sohini, the trial for this case had been very long drawn. It lasted nearly 9 years. Solanki and 6 others were sentenced for life. Talk about what were some of the highlights of that trial.
So during the trial, there were a lot of upheaval, because there were almost 195 witnesses on the list in the trial. And 105 of them turned hostile. There were repeated accusations of witnesses being pressurized, being influenced by the accused, because the accused holds quite a lot of clout in the jurisdiction. So one of the witnesses had alleged that on the day he was supposed to depose, his son was kidnapped, and he had attributed the abduction to be at the behest of Dinu Solanki. So yeah, apart from the conviction, the trial court had also directed that perjury proceedings also be conducted against 38 of these witnesses because of the way they turned hostile, or the reasons they attributed for being hostile, or the way of their deposition.
And Sohini, what made the court revisit this case nearly 5 years later?
So after the trial court's verdict in 2019, Dinu Solanki and the 6 other convicts, they moved Gujarat High Court appealing against the conviction. And the Gujarat High Court this week ultimately acquitted all 7 of them. It proceeded as a usual appeal goes, where you basically see the evidence that was examined or taken on record by the trial court, whether the legal precedents that were applied were valid or not, the kind of evidence appreciation that went in, the kind of conclusion that was taken during the trial based on the evidence on record and the depositions. So based on all these aspects, the Gujarat High Court has now acquitted all 7 of them.
And what made the High Court acquit Solanki and the others? What kind of an analysis made it change the verdict of the trial court?
So the Gujarat High Court looked at the witness depositions and also the other evidence such as eyewitness accounts or corroborating evidence on record, call detailed record, phone details, etc. So some of the observations that the court has given is, firstly, a lot of the witnesses turned hostile. So that's one thing. Secondly, the few witnesses that did not turn hostile did not have a very sterling deposition. Second, another observation of the Gujarat High Court was, for example, vetting and checking the call detailed records, actually establishing a clear ownership over the phone devices that were purportedly used by the accused, and establishing the authorship over the details that were extracted from the phones. So none of this was done as per due procedure, is what the Gujarat High Court has concluded. Yeah, these have been the main points that the High Court has touched on. Thirdly, to also establish conspiracy, you need to show a clear link from the offense, the plotting of the offense, and the motive, and the ultimate culmination into the offense. So that link was not established by the prosecution or the investigating agencies, is what the High Court has deduced now.
Right. And you mentioned in your story that in its verdict, the court says that this case will be reminisced as an antithesis to Satyamev Jayate. Talk about what made the court say that.
The Gujarat High Court's judgment begins with the quote of Satyamev Jayate being from the Upanishads, and then goes on to make this statement that this case will be reminisced as an antithesis to Satyamev Jayate, because Satyamev Jayate is supposed to say that truth wins. But here the High Court went on to observe that in this case, truth will be buried forever. So what the High Court was prefacing its judgment with was that it was an absolute failure on the part of the investigating agency as well as the prosecution to secure the case, because otherwise the case was quite shocking, and if the intent was there, or if they had followed due process, this could have had a conviction in a way, or at least some form of crucifying evidence that this incident happened and these were the people involved in this, etc. So what the Gujarat High Court here was indicating that there was probably somewhere intentional or unintentional botching up of the process of securing evidence and what you're supposed to do as an investigating agency to make a case stand in trial.
And Sohini, now that these men have been acquitted, do we know how the other side is going to proceed?
So, of course, in terms of legal remedy, the victim side, basically the deceased's next of kin, they have a right to go into further appeal in Supreme Court. But given the observations, it's actually entirely up to them. So, the only way forward here is either they choose to appeal against this verdict or they don't. But we also need to take into account the fact that Amit Jethwa's father, the one who has been crusading in this case, he has been the one putting up a fight. He was the one who moved High Court seeking that CBI probe or SIT probe be initiated because the Gujarat police is botching up the case and got a successful order in his favor. So, I mean, he has been fighting since 2010 until about 2024 now. So it's really up to them how the case goes here on.
And in the end, we talk about Sam Pitroda's resignation. At a time when he finds himself in controversy over various remarks, Sam Pitroda yesterday stepped down as the chairman of the Indian Overseas Congress, allegedly of his own accord. His resignation was accepted by the party president, Mallikarjun Kharge. Pitroda's resignation came hours after his fresh remarks in an interview to the Statesman, wherein he tried to emphasize the diversity of India by saying this.
We could hold country together as diverse as India, where people on East look like Chinese, people on West look like Arab, people on North look like, maybe white, and people in South look like Africa. Doesn't matter. We are all brothers and sisters.
After his remarks surfaced online, several leaders from the BJP began criticizing them, including PM Modi, who called them racist and stated that they were proof that the Congress intended to divide the country along the lines of race, religion and caste.
लेकिन आज शहजादे के फिलोसोफर ने इतनी बड़ी गाली दी है जिसने में गुस्सा भर दिया है. कोई मुझे बताइए, क्या मेरे देश में चमड़ी के रंग के आधार पर लोगों की योग्यता तय होगी? क्या चमड़ी के रंग का खेल शहजादे को किसने इजाजत दी है?
Meanwhile, the Congress was quick to distance itself from Pitroda's comments, with the party leader Jairam Ramesh saying that the analogies drawn by Mr. Pitroda to illustrate India's diversity are most unfortunate and unacceptable, adding that the Indian National Congress completely dissociates itself from these analogies. The latest controversy comes days after Pitroda praised the US system of inheritance tax, with the BJP latching onto it as proof that the Congress wanted to take money from the people and redistribute it. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank, Bhargava and me, Niharika, Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.